They thought it was over. They thought it was revealed. But heaven was not finished. For 85 years, the Catholic world believed the Third Secret of Fatima had been fully unveiled, a vision of a bishop in white, martyrdom of sorrow and silence. But deep within the Vatican archives, sealed behind red wax and fear, there was more. Sister Lucia saw something else. She wrote it down. Not in 1917, not in 1944, but in 1957. It's the year she said the final part will be. For those who still believe, when the veil is lifted, the veil is lifting now. Because in June 2025, just after the quiet reassignment of Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, the earth shifted, not literally spiritually, because the man they reassigned was the man the secret had spoken of, a cardinal not chosen by power, but marked by heaven, a man whose presence alone causes silence to fall over conference halls, whose name was once whispered in the Sistine Chapel as the next pope, but now is rarely spoken at all. Why? Because a truth has surfaced, one that shakes the marble pillars of Rome, that the Third Secret of Fatima was never fully revealed till Tagle appeared. Confirmed documents claim the secret ended in symbolism. But Sister Lucia's last sealed paragraph, delivered to the Vatican in secret, held no symbols. It held a name, and it said this: "When the shepherd with the face of mercy is cast aside, know that the great trial is near, for he carries the echo of Peter but is not allowed to speak." That line was never published. Why? Because it didn't fit the timeline, it didn't fit the plan, and now it's unfolding. Pope Leo XIV, the newly enthroned pontiff, praised for his humility, his unity, his subtlety. But weeks after his reign began, he ordered a restructuring of the Secretariat of State, removed Tagle from central authority, and reassigned him to the ancient seat of Albano, not punishment, but distance. Was it politics? Or was it prophetic containment? Because Tagle had seen something. Insiders say he was allowed to read the final paragraph, the true ending of Fatima's third secret. And when he left the archives, he said only 5 words: "The church is not ready." Since then, a strange quiet has come over the halls of the Vatican. No one speaks openly. Meetings are smaller, security is tighter, and a statue of Our Lady of Fatima, once hidden in a side chapel, was returned to the papal residence. No announcement, no ceremony, just there. And that's when it began. Priests in the Philippines began reporting visions of a bishop in red, holding back a flood. In Rome, a cloistered nun claimed to hear the voice of Lucia in prayer. The one who carries silence is the one who holds the key. And in Albano, where Tagle now serves, visitors say the Eucharist feels different, as if the veil between heaven and earth is thinner, as if something is about to break. Some say the Vatican is preparing for a global announcement. Others say it will never be spoken because the final part of the prophecy is not a message. It is a man, a living vessel, a sign to the remnant. Tagle is no longer just a cardinal. He is the key that opens what has been sealed since 1917, and now in a world on fire, where doctrine is questioned, where even the faithful are shaken. The deception will appear holy. The false light will shine brighter than truth, and many will fall. But the bride of Christ will not be destroyed. She will be tested, purified, and made ready. Because what Sister Lucia saw, it was not just a warning, it was a promise. That when the great silence falls and the shepherd is hidden, the Mother of God will act, and those who stand with truth will see miracles, signs, and the final victory. This is not a theory, this is not a trend. This is the unveiling of the end. Asterisk, they knew it would happen someday, but not like this, not in silence, not under the name of mercy, not with a smile cloaked in diplomacy and robes pressed in gold. The removal of Cardinal Tagle was not a political reshuffling, it was a spiritual signal, a warning sent from heaven, because when the man spoken of in the sealed line of Fatima was quietly reassigned, when the shepherd of compassion, of unity, of sacrifice, was sent away, the heavens did not cheer. They trembled, Because what Sister Lucia saw was not a parable, it was a timeline. And that timeline has just accelerated. Behind the alabaster gates of the Vatican, there are two churches now. One still bows to the crucified Christ. The other bows to something else. The spirit of compromise. A doctrine of dilution. A mission without a savior. They dress the same. They speak the same. But only one is faithful. And now, the bride of Christ must choose. For the hour of purification has begun. It will not come through fire from the sky, but fire from within. Already factions war beneath the surface. Bishops against bishops. Cardinals against cardinals, not in open combat, but in decisions, delays, quiet denials. And the man at the center? The man they tried to erase? Tagle, because when he read the final words of the Fatima secret, when his eyes scanned the prophecy that was meant for this generation, something changed in him. He no longer spoke as a future pope. He spoke as a man carrying a burden only heaven could understand. They say his last words before being reassigned were, "I saw her, and she was weeping blood." They thought he meant a statue, but he didn't. He meant Our Lady alive, weeping for her children, for her priests, for her son's church is now walking into its darkest hour. Because this is not just about Tagle. This is about the clash of kingdoms, and behind the incense, Latin prayers, and theological debates. There is a war being fought in the unseen. A war for the bride of Christ. The Vatican halls now echo with whispers of reform. But beneath those whispers is a darker voice. A voice that says, we no longer need the cross. We no longer need the blood. We no longer need the lamb. And that is the voice that heaven will crush. But before the crushing comes the separating, the dividing of wheat from tears, the exposing of the wolves, and yes, the raising up of the hidden ones, the ones like Tagle, the ones who will not speak unless heaven commands, the ones who carry the fire of the upper room but remain hidden in the wilderness till the appointed hour. That hour is near, very near. Already, signs are appearing. The moon has bled, the earth groans. A storm has struck the land where Lucia once prayed, and in Albano, where Tagle now walks in silence. A single white rose was found blooming from the floor of an empty chapel. No roots, no soil, just blooming. The gardener had no explanation, but the nuns, they knew, they wept, because the sign was clear. The Immaculate Heart is preparing her triumph, but before glory comes judgment, and before the bride is crowned, she must be cleansed. Every idol must fall. Every false shepherd will be exposed, and the true voice of the church will rise, not in a press conference, not in a council, but from the wounds of the hidden, from the silence of Albano, from the lips of those who still believe that Jesus Christ is King, that Mary still weeps, that the church is not a corporation, but the living bride of a returning bridegroom. And the moment that white rose bloomed was the moment prophecy shifted from paper into motion. This is the part of the third secret they never wanted you to hear. This is why they reassigned Tagle, and this is why the church must now decide. Because the next seal is about to break. Asterisk, they hid it for over a century. Locked in a vault beneath marble floors, guarded by silence, sealed in fear. But the prophecy refused to die, because heaven doesn't forget what it speaks. And now, in the year 2025, the words of Sister Lucia are moving again, not through thunder, but through a man who walks in silence. Luis Antonio Tagle, a cardinal, once celebrated, now is forgotten, removed from Vatican power, stripped of his global voice, reassigned, without explanation. But what if that wasn't a demotion? What if it was a signal? A signal that the part of Fatima the world never heard, the part the Vatican never read aloud, is now unfolding in him. Because when Tagle read the final line of the true third secret, he did not speak. He prayed for hours, witnesses say. He left the apostolic archive trembling. One priest swears he saw Tagle collapse before the Blessed Sacrament and say, "She warned me about what is coming for the Church." But no one dared ask what he meant, because in Rome, there are two kinds of men: those who chase power, and those who carry prophecy. Tagle was always the latter, and that made him dangerous, because he had seen something the world was never supposed to know: that the Third Secret of Fatima did not end with the image of a slain pope. It ended with a warning about a false light rising within the Church, about a time when the papacy itself would be hijacked by men who no longer believed in the cross, about a moment foretold by Our Lady when truth would be buried beneath mercy, the bride of Christ would be disfigured from within, and then came the twist. Tagle wasn't removed to silence him. He was removed to protect him, because the Vatican knows he is carrying something sealed, not just in paper, but in his soul, a knowledge so explosive it could either break the Church apart or purify it. He's not just a cardinal anymore. He's a living vessel of heaven's last secret. And now, in Albano, away from cameras, away from conclave, he waits. But here's what no one expected. Real third secret? It's not a message. It's not a letter. It's a person. A man chosen before time. And when the day comes and the Vatican falls into crisis, it won't be the man on the throne who speaks. It will be the man who was silenced. And when he speaks, fire will fall, heaven will move, and the bride of Christ will be restored. But first the veil must tear, and it just began.